the layouts that we have seen. And then I want to introduce the most common user interface components that comes with JavaFX. So for the layouts, as we discussed last time, layouts allows us to build responsive user interface where the components are automatically placed on the window. And when the window is resized, these components are, the placement and the size of the components are automatically adjusted. So JavaFX comes with many layouts. They are also called panes. They are synonym. Layout or pane means the same thing. The most common ones are the VBox and the HBox that we discussed before. Now, when you use VBox or HBox, you can control the spacing between components by setting some integer value, assigning it to the spacing, and this controls the spacing between consecutive components. The other thing you can control when you use this VBox is the alignment. How the elements inside the VBox will be aligned. You want to align them in the center or on top left or on top right and so on. So you have a lot of possible values for the alignment. You can also adjust other things, but these two properties are the most important ones. Controlling the spacing between components and also deciding how components will be placed in the actual VBox or HBox. The other pane that we have seen is the border pane. In the border pane, you are offered with 5 areas in your window. You have top area, left, right, bottom, and center, and you just start dragging and dropping components into any area that you wish. But typically, this one is typically used for a toolbar, let's say. And this is for a footer. For example, in PowerPoint, you can see here the bottom here. This is a footer, basically. You can be put in the bottom of the border pane. And this part here is the left side, and in the middle we have the actual slide. You can also show the right side if you wish. So this is very common layout, the border layout. Divides the window into 5 parts, and you decide which components goes to which parts of the window. Another very useful pane is the grid pane. The grid pane divides the screen into rows and columns, similar to Excel, and then you drag components into one of the cells as you see fit. It's very commonly used for forms. When you have a form to collect input from users, the grid pane is the best layout. Typically, on the left side, you put the labels, and on the right side, you put components such as text boxes, ComboBox, lists, and so on. Now, you can also control here many things, but among what you can control is the V gap that controls the space between the rows, and the H gap controls the space between the columns, and the padding. If you want some spacing between the grid components and the window, you can put some padding if you wish. Now the float pane, somewhat useful, but not very critical. Definitely the VBox, HBox, the border pane, and the grid pane are the most commonly used. The flow pane could also be useful. The way it works, you just keep adding components to the pane, keep adding components. They are laid out one next to each other. And then when you resize the window, for example, in this case, you resize the window and you reduce the width, when there is not enough space for the components, it will be automatically moved to the next line. That's what the flow pane is used for. The last one I want to show you or discuss is the anchor pane. I was not going to add it, but when I start playing with it, it sounds very useful layout. So I think it's easier for me to explain it through an example. So here is an example, very simple example. I have an anchor pane and a text area. And take a look, when I preview, whenever I resize my window, the text area is automatically resized. And you can see here, this space here, on the left, on the top, on the right, is always preserved. No matter how I resize the window, there's this spacing between the edge of the pane and the actual text area is always maintained. So what happens is, if you put a control or a component inside an anchor pane, then you get this ability to specify. You can see here, you can specify. In this case, what I'm specifying 15 pixels to the left of the pane, 15 pixels to the right, 15 pixels on the top, and 15 on the bottom. So what I'm instructing the anchor pane to do, please go ahead, always preserve, no matter what, always preserve this 15 pixels around my control. And whenever I resize, the remaining space, assign it to my control. Yeah. Now, if some reason I remove this part here, and then suddenly my pane will not be, my control will not be resizable horizontally. I have to specify the values of both sides for it to be resizable. So it's no longer resizable. If I want it to be resizable, I have to put a value in both sides. Now, if I have put value on both sides, it's resizable. Now, if I remove, for example, this one here, what will happen is, it is still resizable horizontally, but vertically, it's no longer resizable. So for me to preserve this auto-resizing, I have to specify space on both parallel sides, like the right and left value, then it will be resizable horizontally. If I put the top and bottom value, it will be resizable vertically. Yeah, but that's it for panes. The best way is to try them yourself, like this. Then what you do, you add the border pane. Here's my border pane. And you can see here, as I mentioned, it gives you 5 areas. And on the top, typically, I will have a toolbar. So toolbar here. Drag it, put it on the top. Or even drag it here, it shows you where you want to put it. Yeah, here is my top there. On the left, I want to put, let's say, a V-box. Drag it, put it on the left. Yeah. On the bottom, I want to put, let's say, a label. Drag it, put it on the bottom, and so on. Yeah. So feel free to play with this. At least reproduce the examples I provided you. And here it doesn't need any coding. Just do Control P, and you can basically play with this as much as you want. When you create a real application, most likely it will be a combination of layouts, not just one layout. Combination of layouts. Even the example I just showed you here. So what I have in this layout, the root layout is the border pane. That gives me top, bottom, left, right, and center. And then on top, I have another layout, which is a toolbox. Inside it, I have buttons. And then on the left side, I have a V-box. On the bottom side, I have another H-box. So it's a combination of layouts in the real world to achieve all of this. Okay. And I can change. Remember this one? This is my label. I can change this. You can see here, wrap in anchor. You remember anchor pane? Wrap it in an anchor pane. And I can remove this and wrap. From making it from V-box to an anchor pane. The layout, I have this anchor pane here. So I can put here, for example, 10 pixels in every side. I want you to preserve 10 pixels on every side. And the remaining, give it to my label. In here, what I have 2 tabs. One for personal details and another one for professional details. So instead of having a huge form where the user has to scroll and scroll and scroll, it's become a little bit more manageable if you have multiple tabs. And then when the user is happy, they can go ahead and save. So you can have a multi-tab So I have here, you can see here what I have is a multiple layouts. The root layout is a border pane to give me the top, the bottom, and the right, and so on. In here, I'm only using the top to have a toolbar that has a save button. And in the middle, in the center of the pane, what did I put? A tab pane. And this tab pane has two tabs, personal details and professional details. So in the second part, I want to start with introducing you to most commonly used UI components. I will start this time with an example and take it from there. So I'll go to the same example, which is the registration form. So in this registration form, I try to add most of the components that are very useful and very commonly used. So as you can see here, the first component is the label. Label is very common. You already seen how to use it. The other commonly used component is the text box. You already know how to use it. It allows the user to freely enter any text they wish. The other ones you haven't seen is, for example, let's say a ComboBox. ComboBox, you use it when you have a limited choice. So instead of asking the user to enter the text by themselves, you're giving them the list of choices and they pick up one of the choices. So of course you cannot use it for something like a name or last name because the choices, there are millions of names and last names. But for titles, they are limited. Mr., Mrs., Dr., Prof, something like this. So it's limited, so you can just use a combo box. Now the combo box, you cannot fill it using the sim builder, you have to fill it using code, and we will see shortly how to do that. The other useful one is the radio button. So in a radio button, allows you to do mutually exclusive choice. So if I do Control P here, so either male or female. Yeah. So now what is important here is that in the radio box, in the radio buttons, you have to specify this group, toggle group. So if I remove this one, this property called toggle group, then if I just do it this way, they will not be mutually exclusive, which is not what you want. So to make them mutually exclusive, you must select them and give them both, in this scenario, give them both the same toggle name, toggle group, which is, in this case, gender. So once you do this, if you do Control P, then they become mutually exclusive. If you select one, the other one gets deselected. So to achieve this behave, the radio button must have a toggle group. And the radio buttons having the same toggle group will be mutually exclusive. Now, what's the difference between a combo box and a checkbox? In checkboxes, they are not mutually exclusive. You can select multiple of them. So, for example, in here, my preferences is to contact me by email or WhatsApp. So they are not mutually exclusive. It's not one or the other. I can have multiple. That's the difference between the choice. In here, both of them are used for choice, but this one is mutually exclusive. This one, you can have multiple choices. The other one I want to show you is the date picker. Very simple. It gives you a very nice calendar to pick up the date. So let me show you how to do it. Very simple. I can even remove it. Come here, choose date picker, look for date picker, drag it into the date of birth. If I wish, I can adjust the size. That's it, and I have date picker. I can also have a color picker. I can pick a color, or if these colors are not enough, I can customize it and use this to pick up my date, my color. Yeah, very powerful. Same thing, it's already built in. I can even remove it. And color, just look for color picker, drag it, drop it in the cell. Here, checkboxes I already explained. Now, in the other one, what I have here, this is a list view. This is a list view. It's similar to a combo box, but with the list view, you can select multiple elements at the same time. multiple elements. For example, in here, degree, somebody might have multiple degrees, a bachelor degree and a master degree, so they can select multiple from the list. Now, for selecting multiple, I didn't find any property to set it on the scene builder. You have to do it in code, and I will show you shortly. Drop down, I already showed you drop down, or combo box. Another name for combo box is a drop down. It's synonymous, it's the same thing. We have also this nice slider. If I have some limited values, let's say value from 1 to 20, like experience, years of experience, I can, instead of asking the user to type it, they can select a value using the slider. I think the slider will have a max and min value. By default is 0 and 100. Demonstrate combo boxes, list boxes, and table views. Very, very useful in a real application. And I want to show you how we fill up those combo boxes and lists with data coming from the model. So the data will come from the model. The controller will get that data and pass it to the combo box or a list view or a table view to display it. But JavaFX does it in a very elegant way, as I'll show you shortly. So here is an example. I'll start with the combo box. As usual, I run the example. Here's my combo box. So what I will see there, I will see the list of colleges I want to transfer to another college, let's say medicine. Once I select a college, that selected college will be displayed in a label. When the view is loaded, you have the opportunity to fill up, to initialize any of the components. In here, we are initializing the combo box with what? With the list of colleges. Now, how do we initialize components? By putting some code inside our controller in this event called initialize. I explained this initialized before, but I'll show you a concrete way of doing it. So first, let's start with the scene builder and take a look at how the UI looks like. It's very simple. All I have here is a grid layout or a grid pane. I have a label and a combo box, and I have another label to show you the college that was selected. That's it. Now, in terms of controller, this UI is linked with a controller called ComboBox controller, and I have two things that are named. The combo box, it's called the colleges combo, and the label, it's called message label. I named them because I will access them programmatically. Also, there is an event handler here attached to the combo, which is whenever some college is selected, I will run this method called handle college selected. That's all there is in terms of view. Now, in terms of controller, here is the controller. So I have this initialize method. If I wish, I have seen some examples, they put this fxml. I think it's nice to put it. Why not? It's just to say, oh, by the way, this will be auto-called when the view is loaded to initialize our list box. Now what I'm doing here, I go to my college repository. By the way, this keyword repository is very commonly used when you have a class that reads and writes from some data source, such as a file or a database. So we call it a repository. So I have here a college repository class. It has one method, which is get colleges. In real world, you might go to a file or a database to get this list. But in here, I'm hard coding them here. At the end of the day, it returns you a list. Then I go to my get that list, put it in this colleges list. I wish I could just come to the combo box and put here colleges list. But when I put colleges list, which is of type list string, you can see here the compiler is complaining. It's saying that the set method is expecting what? Can you see what it's expecting? An observable list. A list for it is not enough. It's using something known as observable list or called observable list. So what I want to show you here, so an observable list is a class that comes with JavaFX. Observable list. And this class extends a list with some extra functionality. So luckily, it's not that hard to make JavaFX happy. What we will do with our list, convert it to an observable list. So for us to be able to pass it to the combo, we have to first convert it. How do we convert it? So declare a variable of type observable list, and then there is a class that comes with JavaFX called FX collections, and it has a method called observable array list, and I give it the list, and it returns me what? An observable list. And then I take that observable list and set it, pass it to the combo by using the set items. And that's it. This will take the list elements and add them to the combo. Why do you think we are using this observable list instead of just a list? This will become clearer as I show you the next example. Is clear so far? So all I'm doing, the only thing a little bit confusing is this line here. We wish that we just get a list and pass it to set item, but for some very smart reason, we are using an observable list instead of a list. But luckily, we don't need to put any effort in converting a list to an observable list. It's just one line of code using the FX collections and converting the list to observable list, and then passing the observable list to the combo. Now, the other event we need to handle is handle the college selected event. How do we handle the college selected event? So again, in what all we do, we go to the combo. I wish the API was as simple as just go into the combo and say get selected item. But no, you need to do get selection model dot get selected item. Yeah? So that's how they have designed it. There is a reason, of course, for it, but for now we take it mechanically. If we want to get the currently selected element from a list or from a combo, by the way, a list view or a table view or a combo box, all of them behave very, very similarly. You use them to select things. So if you want to get what was selected, you go to the ComboBox components, dot get selection model, dot get selected item. This will give me the college that was selected. And what do I do with this college that was selected? Display it in the label. So I go to the label and set Textbox and say selected college is the college that was selected by the user. Is clear? So when I run, what I get is I get this combo box that is filled when the component was initialized using the initialized method that is defined in the controller. And this will fill up the combo box. Now in here, the only trick, you know how to create a list. The only thing, you cannot pass a list directly to the combo. You have to first convert it to an observable list. Once you do that, you listen to another event, which is the on action event, which will be done whenever the user selects something from the combo. Whenever some user selects something, this event handler will be called. And all this event handler does, it gets the selected elements from the combo and displays it in the label. Is clear? Okay, now moving on to the next example, which is the list view. Here is a list view. Let me now run it. Always run before you go into the details how it works. Exactly the same as a combo, except in a list view, the major difference, I can select multiple. For example, if I'm applying to QU, okay, I might say engineering, medicine, and maybe Sharia, okay? One of these as an example. With a combo box, you cannot do this. You can only select one at a time. The other thing in here, usually in a combo, in a list you might want to add. For example, I might say AI college. Near future, we will have AI college, okay? Add. I'll add it to the list. Can you see it there? And everybody will be abiding by the law. No need for any law. Khalas, remove the college. And no need for, everybody will be healthy. Okay? So we can see here, add and remove. Yeah. Now when I add and remove, what's happening is I am adding to the list associated with the list view. This is a list view, which is the visual part. So let me use my somewhat poor artistic skills. Okay, so what I have here the list. Okay, this is something in memory. Yeah, and I need to visualize it to the user as a list. Yeah, this is nothing but visualization of this. Now, the smart thing that JavaFX is doing is this list here is an observable, hopefully I'm spelling this correctly, observable list. Okay. Now, because it is an observable list, any change I do to this observable list is auto-reflected in the UI. Auto-reflected in the UI. It's like وجهان لعملة واحدة. I just change the observable list, and that any change will be auto-reflected in the UI. That's why they use an observable list instead of a normal list. And as the name implies, observable means we are watching your list. Any change, we are ready for it. Any change will be reflected. That's why in here, guess what? When I add something like when I add it to the observable, and it's auto-reflected in the list. I remove it from the observable list, and it gets auto-reflected in the UI. So in this case, it makes our life as programmers much, much easier. We deal with the list, either add to it, or remove from it, or even modify it, and those are auto-reflected in the UI. Very powerful. And that's why we use observable list instead of a list. When we link our lists with the UI, whether it's a ComboBox or a ListBox or a TableView, we don't link it with a list. The JavaFX will not allow you anyway. You have to convert it to an observable list, and then all you do, you add to the observable list, you remove from the observable list, you update the observable list, and those changes will be auto-reflected in the UI. Is clear? So let me show you how this is exactly done. So if I go here to my controller and look at the add, here's the add event handler. All I do, I go to the college text field and say, please give me the text the user have entered. I assign it to this variable here called college, and I check. If it's not empty, and if it's not entered, if it's not already in the list, then I add it. For example, in here, if I try to add the AI college, you will not add it because it's already in the list. Okay? Now, if this condition is true, then I go ahead and add it to my college. What is a college? It's an observable list. And I clear the text. Clear it just because I already added. So for example, if I put here to and add, I clear this box. Because I added it, I clear it. So it makes sense to do so. So now, did I need to change the list view, go to the list view and change how, like let's say add twice, add to the observable list and add to the list view? No. All I do, I add it to the observable. The observable will raise some event saying to the list view, oh, by the way, I have changed, you need to refresh yourself. And all of this is happening behind the scene by the JavaFX. Same thing for delete. Take a look at delete. In delete, I go to the college, get selection model, get selected index, and all I do, I go to my observable and say, go ahead and remove. Once I do that, it will be removed from the observable list, and guess what? It will be also removed from the list view. Is clear? Okay. Same thing happens with Same thing happening with table view. Usually the list view is one value. See here, there is only one value. If you want multiple columns, you don't use a list view, you use a table view. Let me show you an example here. So if I run this one, what I have here, this is a table view, not a list view. They are very similar. In a list view, I have one value only displayed. In the table, there are multiple columns, multiple rows. And the same thing here. What do you think is associated with the table view? What's behind the table view and attached to the table view? Observable. It's an observable list. Yeah? It's an observable list of objects. And whenever I do changes in the observable list, what happens? Reflected in the actual list. So you see here, I didn't get the chance to do the add yet. Inshallah, next session we will have the full example with listing objects, adding, deleting, and updating, all of them to finalize this session, to finalize this JavaFX. So you see here, but I did the add, the delete. And guess what? When I'm deleting from the observable list. I'm not deleting from the view, from the table view itself. Now, the code is exactly the same as the list view. This is the when I initialize my UI. All I'm doing, I go to the model and get the list of students. The list of students is a list of objects, not a list of strings. It's a list of objects of type student. And you know how to do this. In real life, you might get it from a file or from a database, but in here I'm hard coding it. I have to convert it to an observable list and then set it. This way, the table view is now linked or bind with the observable list. And guess what? When I do delete, can you see delete? Exactly the same as the list view. I get the selected index and go ahead and remove it. When I remove it from the student's observable list, it gets auto-removed from the table view. The add, I haven't done the add, but you can imagine the add will be exactly the same. I'll give you a form, you fill out the form, you press submit or save. I take that object, add it to the observable list, and it will show in the table view.